G'day, my name is Shay with Box Collector, and today I'll be teaching you how to play the 2 to 4 player game, Hexes of Sygon, designed by Alec Cacheris and published by Hexes of Sygon, who provided me with this copy. Hexes of Sygon is a dynamic resource management strategy board game structured around movable wizard pieces. Use wizards to conjure buildings and cast spells in your quest to rule the land of Sygon. To set up the game, we will first need to assemble the board. Using the board frame pieces, construct the frame. This is for a 2-player setup. However, if you're playing a 3 or 4-player game, you'll need to use some spacers around the frame to construct the larger board. If this isn't your first time playing, then shuffle all of the hexes together, then shuffle the landscape hexes and the 3 volcano hexes together. Then randomly place the hexes with the ash side up until the board frame is full. However, if this is your first time playing, use the recommended first time board. And this is the first time board for a 2-player game. Only use gold value tokens labeled for your player count. So in this example, playing a 2-player game, I wouldn't want to use this 3+ player gold value token. If this isn't your first time playing, set each volcano on their corresponding volcano hex. Place an exterior gold value token on each landscape hex that touches the board frame, with the number facing down, just like this. And place an interior gold value token on each remaining landscape hex. Do not place gold value tokens on volcano hexes. Each player has a resource tracker, which contains abbreviated explanations of all steps in a turn. Players use the top of the resource tracker to denote the resources and gold they collect at the end of their turn. Players can also use the resource tracker to organize their resources and plan their expenses. Resource cubes are placed up here. The resources are flowers from the flower meadows, elixir from the elixir swamps, spice from the spice dunes, crystal from the crystal caves, mushroom from the mushroom forests, and snow from the snow mountains. And you will add a resource cube matching the hex type of each town and workshop you build during the game. Mark the combined hex gold value of your starting towns by placing a gold chip here, and you'll increase this marker by the gold value of each town you build, and by 2 for each market you build. And you'll decrease the marker if volcanic eruptions affect your gold income. Plan ahead for any movement-related costs, such as teleporting or entering hexes containing opponent wizards by placing gold here. You'll store your starting resource cubes and gold here. At the end of each of your turns, add resources and gold from the bank equal to your income trackers. Use this area to plan resource transformations and other exchanges. Use these building spaces to plan ahead for your purchases. Each of these spaces denotes exactly what you need to build a town, workshop, wall, or market. Flip the gold value tokens to reveal the gold value of each landscape hex. Remove tokens with a value of 0. Roll the d12 to determine who goes first. The highest rolling player places a town on an empty landscape hex of their choice. If this hex is touching the board frame, place 1 wall. Otherwise, place 2. The remaining players follow clockwise. The last player to place their first town will place a second town and wall or walls, and the remaining players will follow counterclockwise. All players start with 3 resource cubes, 1 from each of their 2 towns and 1 resource cube of their choice. Player 1 starts with 3 gold and all other players start with 4. To begin the first round, player 1, which in this case is the blue player, begins their turn by placing all 3 of their wizards in any combination of their towns. Then player 1 completes the following phases in order: upright phase, movement phase, building phase, casting phase, and collection phase. And I will explain all of those phases in a moment. Once player 1 is done, then player 2 places their wizards and completes their turn. And you'll complete all players' turns before proceeding to step 2 of the round sequence. Step 2 is Volcanoes Erupt. You'll roll the d12 die and apply the aftermath effects, which I will explain in a moment. Then you will adjust player scores following the aftermath and determine if any players have reached the victory condition. If not, each player receives fortune gold from the bank equal to the number of sorcery points. If not, each player receives gold. Okay, let me explain the phases. First is the upright phase, which begins in round 2. The player will upright all towns and wizards which were knocked down in the previous round, but you will not upright towns or wizards at any point during round 1. All right, let me explain the movement phase. Each wizard may either walk or teleport once per turn, but wizards are not required to move. Wizards can freely move 1 hex per turn, but a player's wizard cannot walk across an opponent's wall. So these wizards can't move there. Wizards can move up to 2 hexes away by placing 1 gold to the bank. And when you do that, wizards can teleport past opponent walls, volcanoes, and ash hexes. So this red wizard was able to go past blue's wall by teleporting the wizard. Wizards cannot enter a hex that already contains 3 wizards. So this wizard, even if you use the teleport action, cannot enter this hex. Also, if red did want to pay a gold to teleport past this wall to get into this hex, you can. However, to walk or teleport into a hex containing an opponent wizard or wizards, the player must pay 1 gold to each wizard's owner. So red would have to pay 1 gold to teleport in here, and then pay 2 gold to the blue player for each of the wizards. And with this volcano over here, wizards cannot move onto a space with the volcano or an ash hex. To build in a hex, at least one of your wizards must occupy that hex. Only towns and walls can be built in unsettled hexes. And an unsettled hex is any landscape hex which does not already contain a town. You also can't build in a hex containing an opponent's town. So red, even if they had a wizard here, can't build a town here because blue already has one. Also, if red teleported their wizard over here and paid the required gold, you must have 2 wizards in a hex that contain an opponent wizard to build a town, workshop, or market. However, this restriction does not apply when building walls. So neither red or blue can build anything in this hex until they get another wizard here. And only 1 town, 1 workshop, and 1 market can exist in each hex. And within a hex, only 1 wall per border is allowed. But walls are in only 1 hex. They don't exist on both. So there's a wall in this Mushroom Forest hex, but not in the Elixir Swamps. So red could construct their own wall. During the collection phase, a town produces 1 resource cube of the resource type of which the town is built, and gold equal to the gold value of the hex. So this hex produces flowers, so you'd get 1 flower resource cube from this town, and you'd also get 2 gold. A workshop increases the resource cube production of the town by 1. So now this town is producing 2 flowers. And a workshop also awards 2 sorcery points, which I'll explain in a moment. The market increases the gold production of the town by 2. So now this town is producing 4 gold. And a market awards 1 sorcery points. After building is the casting phase. Each wizard may cast 1 action spell per turn, and each type of action spell can only be cast once per turn. During the building phase, you can also do exchange spells. You can transform 1 resource cube plus 3 gold into any resource you like. You can also sell 1 resource cube for 3 gold, or you can pay 7 gold to get any resource cube. To forge, 1 wizard collects 1 resource cube of that hex type it occupies, and this resource cube is added to your resource tracker inventory. When a wizard uses the forge action spell, place a black forge token on the forged hex. If that hex is forged a second time, flip the forge token to the red side, and hexes with red forge tokens can no longer be forged. Wizards may cast forge in their towns and opponents' towns. So if red was here and it wasn't on the red side yet, then red could forge this space. Towns and workshops on hexes which have been forged twice still produce resource cubes during the collection phase. Forged resource cubes cannot be used in the same turn they are forged. Another spell you can cast is Steal. 1 wizard steals from the hex it occupies and all adjacent hexes. You'll knock over and take 1 gold from each opponent town and opponent wizard in these hexes. So this town gets knocked over and you steal 1 gold. This wizard gets knocked over and you steal 1 gold. This town and this wizard. If I had a town here, it doesn't get knocked over because it's the casting wizard's own town. Some restrictions with the steal spell is a wizard must steal from at least 2 different hex tiles at the same time, which in this case this wizard did. However, a wizard cannot steal through opponent walls. So since there is this wall here, this wizard can't steal from this hex, meaning that this wizard isn't able to perform the steal action because they would only be stealing from one hex. Knocked over towns and wizards cannot be stolen from, and gold cannot be used the same turn it was stolen. Because we're playing a 2-player game, I should note that the action spell is a little bit different. You may not steal from opponent towns or wizards occupying the same hex as your stealing wizard, but wizards can steal from as few as 1 adjacent hex, as opposed to normally requiring 2. Now, let's say that this red wizard hasn't cast steal yet, and it's blue's turn. Well, maybe blue suspects that red is going to cast steal. So this blue wizard can cast protect. One wizard defends itself from an opponent's steal spell, and when it casts protect, it is knocked over. And this wizard can no longer be the target of a steal until it is uprighted at the beginning of this player's next turn. At the end of every round, volcanic eruptions obliterate the land of Sygon. When every player has completed their turn, roll the volcano die. After rolling the volcano die, immediately place the smoke cloud pieces into the volcanoes, matching the color on the result of the rolled die. So in this case, you'd put a smoke cloud in the green volcano. If a volcano contains a smoke cloud because it erupted last round, you'll remove the smoke cloud and do not apply the aftermath effects from that volcano. And no volcano can erupt 2 rounds in a row. Some numbers have 2 colors, which means both colors are affected. Each erupting volcano causes aftermath effects to all adjacent landscape hex in the following order. You'll flip all landscape hexes with 0 gold value, no town, and no wall bordering the erupting volcano. So if this hex didn't have a gold value, then you would take it out and flip it over. And all other game pieces that may be on this hex are removed before flipping it. You'll remove 1 non-wall building from all hexes with 0 gold value and no wall bordering the erupting volcano. So the die that I rolled was for green, so this hex doesn't have a wall, and green was the volcano that was rolled. If there wasn't a gold value attached to this hex, then I'd have to remove a building, which it would be this town. You'll then reduce the gold value by 1 of all hexes without a wall bordering the erupting volcano. So this loses its gold, this becomes 1, this becomes 1, this becomes 1, and this becomes 1. And then if there are any walls bordering the erupting volcano, you'll remove all of those walls. Now, because this is a 2-player game, this volcano started with a smoke cloud, meaning it had already erupted. So technically, the green that I rolled would just remove the smoke cloud and no other effects would occur. After rolling the volcano die and applying the result aftermath effect to the board, each player counts their sorcery points to determine if they have met the minimum amount to win. Players can receive sorcery points by building towns, workshops, markets, and encirclements, which I'll explain in a second. At the end of the round, add up the point values of all of your buildings and encirclements, and that is your score. To win, a player needs at least 27 minus the number of ash hexes created by volcanic eruptions. When a town is surrounded on all 6 sides by your walls, ash hexes, volcano hexes, or the board frame, it is encircled. A player receives 1 point for each of their encircled towns. And walls contributing to an encirclement may be on either side of a hex border, meaning that a wall in the mushroom forest works for this encirclement. After you've finished applying aftermath effects and you've added up your sorcery points for this round, each player receives gold from the bank equal to the number of sorcery points they trail behind the leading player. You gain 3 sorcery points for every town, 2 sorcery points for every workshop, and 1 sorcery point for every market. Because each player starts the game with 2 towns, and each town produces 3 sorcery points, each player starts with 6. Throughout the game, as you continue to build, you can indicate the amount of sorcery points you have using this tracker. If multiple players reach the minimum score to win and are tied for first place at the end of a round, then all players will play one final round. And if a tie for first isn't broken in this final round, first place is awarded to the player with the most sorcery points and remaining resources. And you'll award 1 point for each remaining gold and 4 points for each remaining resource cube. And you will collect resources in the final round. Experienced players are encouraged to use spell cards and the optional action spells. The optional action spells are the Scorch spell and the Terraform spell, and spell cards are designed to make gameplay more strategic and interactive. You'll purchase spell cards and play spell cards, applying their text. Another option you have with Hexes of Sygon is you can play a 2v2 game, which I won't explain now, but if you're interested, you can find how to do that in the rulebook.